It is time for another recap and review of American Horror Story Cult Episode 2. It's called Don't Be Afraid of the Dark. I've got a guest, and after watching Episode 1 election night, I went into this one hoping to see some signs of Ryan Murphy and his team really saying something about stuff like politics, phobias, the cult mentality. Was also really hoping to start to feel some connection to the cast of characters, especially Allie, Ivy, and Oz. Can't say I got all of that to the exact degree I wanted, but it does seem like the season is moving in a really promising direction now. This episode begins immediately where the last one left off, with Allie finding one of the clown mask wearing home invaders in the bed with her. Thankfully this time though, Ivy is there to help her, but when she checks the house with her kitchen knife in hand and she can't find anyone, Ivy's not happy, and she even tells Allie, "I don't know how much more of this I can take." It's a tender moment where the frustration is real, but so is their relationship. And by having both of them exist side by side, they both wind up meaning more. You know Allie's phobias could torpedo the relationship, but at the same time, they share a really strong, loving connection that could help them beat her phobias. After that, Oz has his own encounter with that same clown that Allie saw, and also Twisty too. When Allie and Ivy hear him screaming and they run into his room, it's clear he's just having a night terror, and that started to make me wonder, is that something similar to what's happening to Allie? We know this group of clowns exists because they killed the neighbor, so if Oz sees them in his nightmares and Allie's encounters are possibly the same, it calls for us to just stay on our toes. One could assume that they'll eventually show up for real. But perhaps even more powerful in this scene is Oz's choice to reach for Ivy instead of Allie. As if things don't already suck enough for Allie, the question is, will this cripple her further or inspire her maybe to pull it all together? We do get a little bit of an answer to that question later in this episode when this exact issue comes up again. After the opening credits, we see the results of Kai's work from last episode with a local news report featuring the footage he seemingly shot by himself being beaten by migrant workers. Turns out, though, the video credit goes to two new characters, Harrison and Meadow Wilton, played by Billy Eichner and Leslie Grossman. Kai's network clearly is growing, and on top of that, he's trying to take more control. While being interviewed about the incident and his current condition, Kai announces his plans to run for the city council seat that was left vacant after Councilman Chang was killed last episode. So, yeah, pretty easy to start connecting the dots here. And especially when the next scene shows Allie spying on her new neighbors. It's the Wiltons. What a coincidence, huh? Their excuse for moving into a home where the residents were just murdered? They've had credit issues, and the owners were eager to lease the place, sure. Both Allie and Ivy go over there to get Oz. I'm assuming Winter took him there, and while they're there, Allie is a little freaked out by Harrison's hobby, and it's beekeeping, and that hobby comes with a nice and a very clear metaphor for the hive mentality, or maybe the cult mentality. In addition to that, the sequence also sheds a little light on Harrison and Meadow's relationship. Turns out he's gay, and back in high school, they made a pact that if they weren't married by the time they were 35, they would just marry each other. Back at Allie and Ivy's house, Winter is having a tough time with Oz because he's pissed that Winter told Allie and Ivy that he imagined everything he saw on the night of the murder. So she tries to reason with him by spinning it and explaining that people are going to believe what they want to believe. So what you have to do is you've got to figure out what they want to believe and then you give it to them. So the manipulation tactics are full force here. When Oz says he's afraid the clowns are going to come back and get him, Winter tells him they won't come back for you. And I'm asking, why would she add the word you if she didn't already know they were coming back for someone? Then Winter takes it a step further by doing the whole pinky thing to Oz that she did with Kai. Not entirely sure what to make of the end of that conversation just yet, though, that she's taking his fear for him and that that's going to make them both stronger, but that seems like something that might be worth keeping in mind. Meanwhile, at the restaurant, Ivy and Allie's second in command, his name is Roger, gets into a really heated argument with one of the staff members, Pedro. That paves the way to some big moments in the episode narrative, but I think my favorite part of this scene in particular was seeing Allie take care of business and break things up. All we really do is see her rant, rave, and cry. In this moment, though, she's strong, powerful, and she is not taking any of this kind of nonsense from anyone. Later, though, the restaurant alarm goes off, Allie goes to investigate, and she finds Roger hanging nearly dead on a meat hook during a conversation with that detective played by Colton Haynes, who actually does make a better impression now that he has a little more material to work with. He harps on the fact that Roger had an argument with Pedro earlier, so that makes Pedro a suspect, even though both Allie and Ivy insist that he would never do this. So between how he talks about Pedro, his inflection when saying the word wife, and the fact that his hair is looking as white as Winter's, I'm assuming that Haynes' character is going to be revealed to be on Team Kai. With all this murder around her, it really comes as no surprise that Allie opts to beef up security around the house. And she also goes back over to the Wiltons because it turns out Harrison has a gun collection and he's willing to give Allie one of his. In a conversation that's carried out in a surprisingly natural manner, we get a whole bunch of very black and white statements about issues raised when discussing gun control, like, it's the only thing that's going to make you feel safe again. And really, I'm surprised we're getting such a sharp turn from Allie so soon, and even more surprised that it's working, and that after just 2 episodes, the show is actually justifying it. And it gets even more powerful during what might be my favorite scene of the whole episode. It's the conversation between Allie and Kai. Their transformations and the build of that conversation is kind of incredible. She starts out so sure of herself, and he starts out really charming. She then starts to waver when he asks her when was the last time she felt safe. She somewhat regains her footing, refuting his stats and also insisting that she wants to build bridges and not walls. Then, though, Kai rattles her again when he calls out the knife behind her back and also the newly installed bars on her doors and windows. It's a scary conversation and really gets in her head because all she can do to him is say, that doesn't seem accurate, but he can literally rattle the gate on her door that she just installed for her family's protection. To close out the episode, we get a sequence with Allie, Winter, Oz home at the house at night. First, Winter gets a little touchy-feely with Allie, and Allie doesn't exactly push her away. I'm wondering when this might become a real issue, but for now though, Allie is saved by the house alarm going off. Soon after that, the power goes off and someone in a clown mask walks into Oz's room. Oz asks the clown if this is real, and the clown tells him he's just sleeping, suggesting that that person in the mask is likely connected to Winter. As for the power, turns out it's out for the whole block. Harrison from next door comes over and he tells him that the blackout is terrorism and that there will be riots. Not entirely sure if I believe him though. But Winter takes that as her cue to leave, and I actually did buy her wanting to go home to protect her stuff because of Billy Lord's performance, but knowing that Winter is connected to Kai, I do imagine that something else is going on with her as well. And speaking of performance, this is just another moment of A+ work from Sarah Paulson because you really feel Allie's desperation. She doesn't want to be left alone, but now by herself with Oz sleeping upstairs, Allie spots the creepy ice cream truck across the street, blocks all the doors, discovers that what I think are the alarm wires have been cut, and then she has a face-to-face encounter with not one, but 2 of those clowns. So at that point, she decides it is time to grab the gun, which is super unfortunate because Ivy also decides to send poor Pedro to their house with a phone charger and some supplies. So gun in hand, Allie's knee-jerk reaction when she hears someone banging at the door is to shoot, and sure enough, it's just Pedro. But between the power, the ice cream truck, the wires being cut, and the 2 clowns, I don't know, can you really blame Allie for grabbing the gun? But we also have to consider the other side, and it is, do those clowns really exist? Are they real? It is such an effective cliffhanger ending, whereas episode 1 ended on a pretty predictable jump scare. This one gets a harrowing moment that could completely change everything for the main characters. I'm really pleasantly surprised, but I like how they're building on what they started. There's still a long way to go, and it's gonna be a challenge to have this kind of material end up somewhere where it makes an indelible and meaningful impression, but episode 2 definitely pushes the season forward in a good direction. I'm assuming the clown in Oz's room at the end is real, so I'm curious to see if we're gonna find out what exactly he was doing there next episode. I'm also hoping we get more from Cheyenne Jackson as Allie's therapist. The scenes he's had are solid, and they serve the character of Allie really well, but I'm hoping the show fleshes him out too at a point. Do you have anything that you're hoping to see in the next episode? Do you have questions from this episode that you want to see answered in the next one? I want you to share them below. I want to hear about them. And before we close out, it is time to give Patreon supporter Jason Phillips a shout out and a big thank you. You rock, man. I'm so honored to have you part of the Patreon team. So happy and grateful for your support. Thanks to everyone for watching this American Horror Story Cult recap. I will be back next week for episode 3.